So I want to go ahead and dive in. If you are looking to attend the top 5 set it and forget it marketing tips for building momentum during the summer, you're officially in the right place. So welcome. And I have Aiden Augustine here. He is the co-founder and president of Feather. And I am super pumped to sit back and listen. And I'll kind of like dive in if I have some interesting questions as we go along. But this is really relevant for me because I just got back from a mini vacation in Key West for all the Floridians. Has anybody been to Key West? It was super fun. It was nice and relaxing, great weather. And what is so important is as we go into summertime, as kids are going out of school, we're starting to take vacations. We're starting to take trips. We're going to put that out of office on. And what we don't want to lose is all the momentum that you've been building up this spring, right? So I think summertime we often get this slump, and we don't want that to happen. That's the worst thing actually to happen right before you try and get everybody to donate again towards the giving season at the end of the year. So what we want to do is kind of actually get some peaks going consistently and make sure your brand awareness stays consistent. And what's been difficult, as we all know, let me know in the chat, drop some exclamation marks if you can feel this, that organic reach and organic engagement has been going down. So how do we reach the right people at the right time with the right message? And this is really important. So Feather as a platform, if you heard my podcast recently, I've been mentioning them. They are a platform that helps you manage and create your digital ads and social ads. And we're going to talk about those both today, but really simplifying your promotions, saving time, money, increasing ROI. That's what this is all about. And really trying to put your message in front of the right people to drive them to your site and connect with them. So I'm really excited for the information that Aiden's going to share today. And with that, Aiden, I'll let you take it away.
So nice to be here. Thank you for having me, Dana. And welcome, everybody. Appreciate you joining. We're going to talk about digital advertising tips to stay top of mind and continue building that summer momentum. So quick fun fact about myself, I'm super into costumes. I just got married on New Year's Eve a few months ago. So this is a photo of me with my groomsmen. The theme of the wedding was a surrealist circus ball. And so essentially it was like a giant costume party, very Alice in Wonderland-y themed, as you can see here. So fun fact about myself, all in on costumes. But when I'm not gallivanting around dressed as a steampunk circus ringmaster, I am the co-founder and president of Feather. As Dana mentioned, we are a marketing software company, and we fully focus on helping not-for-profits do their best digital marketing. And we work with about 1,200 not-for-profit organizations right now across the spectrum of size and of focus. And so this is what we do all day, every day, is digital marketing for nonprofits. So with that, let's dive in. So we're going to have 5 tips, but this is actually tip 0, which is if you're not doing digital advertising, encourage you to do so. I'm sort of going to try to make the case for you here today, as well as give plenty of different tips of how and why and different little campaign types. But tip number 0 is if you're not
real quick, has anybody been advertising online? Drop a Y in the chat, just flood it, or drop an N. Do you do any type of digital ads or social advertising? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
All right, while they filter in, keep going.
And if you're willing to add an extra line, whether you do, which social platform, or is it display ads, we'd love paid search, we'd love to get a little context there too. But for those of you who are not, consider doing so. As Dana mentioned, organic reach on social platforms continues to be curtailed. I think we all know that email marketing is a little bit of an overused and damaged channel where open rates are also open rates going down, unsubscribes going up. So digital advertising as a way to reach the right person with the right message at the right time continues to grow in relevance. And also, the bottom line is people are spending all day online. So if this is where your potential donors are, your potential volunteers, your potential stakeholders, this is a crazy stat. 8 hours per day is the latest I've pulled of what people spend on digital media. If people are spending all day online, this is the place to reach them. No matter how you slice it, these are just a bunch of screenshots of stats. More time online, more visits, e-commerce online. There was a permanent change of behavior that took place during the pandemic that seems to have really stuck. It was not a temporary spike. We leapt forward a decade, some people would say, in terms of digital adoption. And that also manifests in terms of online giving. So you've probably seen some of these stats from Blackbaud, but 42% increase in online giving over the last 3 years. In 2020, online giving grew 10 times faster than overall giving. So any way you slice it, your target audience is spending more time online, and it's more important than ever to reach them there. So let's jump into some specific campaign ideas. And the first one here is nurturing your website visitors with retargeting ads. So when I'm retargeting ads, I mean when people visit your website, you have the ability to track them and you have the ability to continue to re-engage them and nurture them after they leave your website. And this is probably a review for a lot of you here, but just to make sure we're all on the same page. This is a real screenshot from this morning. I went to the Viking Cruise website. I clicked around, was looking at some potential honeymoon options, and then I check the weather at 7 a.m. this morning in Gainesville, Florida, and boom, I see an ad on weather.com from Viking advertising a specific, all-inclusive cruise option for me, right? So like everybody has experienced this one way or another. Whether you're looking at a pair of running shoes on newbalance.com or you're looking for, a potential trip like we're seeing here, when you're looking for something online, you don't buy it. And then suddenly you start seeing ads for that product follow you around the web, to include following you onto social platforms as well as across various websites as we're seeing here, right? So that is no coincidence. That's a very intentional effort by that organization to bring you back, right? So that's kind of retargeting 101. And if we all went to weather.com and we all hit refresh, different ads would load there for me versus for you versus for Dana, because it is actually a real-time auction taking place. When this website loads, they have a banner spot here and they have a banner ad spot here. And so essentially weather.com is saying to the ad exchanges, which is kind of the underbelly of the internet, hey, I have a website loading with a person that has these cookies and has these device IDs and is coming from this IP address. This is what I know about them. And I have these two ad slots. Who's willing to pay the most? In the split section, second, there's an auction that decides which ads will load on this site, right? In this case, Viking Cruises was willing to pay the most money to get in front of me. And so their ad loaded right here on the right. So this is kind of, again, retargeting 101. We all experience this all day, every day. But this can be incredibly effective for nurturing your website visitors and eventually moving them down a donor journey towards making a contribution. So this is just a quick example here, showing what this might look like on mobile as well, where somebody's visiting the website of the International Justice Mission. And then when they're going to the Food Network to look at recipes, they're seeing an ad here from IJM. How many lives will you impact today, right? So this is how you might apply this to a donation campaign. You might also run retargeting ads for things like driving people to volunteer if you're trying to drive action there, or for just raising awareness of the importance of the cause that your organization is serving. So instead of immediately making an ask, maybe the retargeting ads are more about stats and figures about the impact the organization causes, or about the scope of the challenge that your organization is trying to solve to get more buy-in there. I see a couple of, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, the question from Melissa is really interesting. Do you see that one?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and I'll get into a few more examples of that before, but the short answer, totally. So retargeting 101 would be, you visit the homepage, you leave, show someone an ad, right? Try to bring them back to the same page, or showing everybody in your website when they leave the same ads. But absolutely, to Melissa's question, you can target people with different ads based on which pages they visit, or you can say, I only want to reach the people who have been to a very specific page. To kind of jump into a few different examples of that real quick. So this is an example from a local organization called Grace. So before you think that this is only for global scale foundations, groups like the National Justice Mission, Grace is an organization local to us here in Gainesville, and they're trying to end homelessness in Gainesville. And this is an example of some of their ad creatives and the audiences that they were trying to reach. So they said, who are the warm audiences, people who are higher intent, not just people who visit the homepage and bounced, but they said, well, what about the people who visited our impact page, or people who visited our volunteer page, or people who have read our annual report, right? Those are higher intent signals. Those are people who are like, all right, they clicked a few pages deep into the website, they spent a little bit more time, they're probably a little bit more engaged with the cause by visiting these three specific pages. And so Grace thought these people would be a little bit of a warmer audience, and they set up a retargeting campaign that would only show ads to the people who had been to these three pages. And similarly, you might say, I want to show one ad campaign that was driving people to donate, but a different one that's promoting the services or the programs that you offer, or a different one that's trying to solicit people to volunteer, right? So I think that also gets to Melissa's question here about having two distinct audiences, the potential donors versus the people that you're trying to serve with your mission. And absolutely, you can segment campaigns based on behavior, and you can target different ads to different segments of your website traffic? So great question. And just to show one other example here, this is an example of promoting an event. So this is also a local organization. This is the Humane Society of North Central Florida, also an organization in our backyard here. They have this really fun event called Woofstock, which is their benefit concert. And this is actually a virtual version they did last year. And you can see they were promoting these kind of like bring the party home, virtual benefit concert packages so that you could be a VIP and you could, have, I think they had like local beer and things like that were sent so you could watch the benefit concert from your living room. And so in their case, maybe they targeted a different campaign for anyone who had been to their website versus specifically people who had been to the event page, because people who had actually been to the Woofstock event page, again, that's presumably a higher intent signal. They're a little bit warmer. They've already heard of Woofstock, for one, so they know that the event exists. And the fact that they navigated there means they're probably thinking about it. Whereas people that visit the homepage, obviously they're aware of the Humane Society of North Central Florida, but might not be aware of the fact that they have this fun benefit concert called Woofstock. So even if you were showing the same message, the same ads to these two groups, it might be interesting to target them separately because then you could see the stats of, well, maybe the conversion rate or the click rate or the engagement is much higher from the people who are the event page visitors versus the homepage. Or maybe you should have slightly different ads for the people who have been to the homepage, because again, they're not aware that the fact that there is this benefit concert at all. So you're trying to get them to the event page. It's like a first goal before driving them to buy a ticket. So just another little example here of some retargeting campaigns run by a local nonprofit. So again, just to make absolutely clear here, we're talking about these kind of display ad or banner ad campaigns that are targeting people all across the web, but only showing the people who have recently been to your website or recently been to specific pages on your website. So it's not saying anybody who goes to, just go back up here, it's not that anybody who goes to thefoodnetwork.com is going to see IJM's ad. It's only loading dynamically for the specific people who recently visited IJM's website. So hopefully that's clear here. So a specific type of retargeting campaign, this is kind of cheating by listing this as number 2, but it's like such a high impact opportunity that I really wanted to pull it out. So a specific type of retargeting campaign you can do is targeting shopping cart abandonment. So this is borrowed from the online shopping world, obviously, which is when people get to the point of adding something to a cart, but don't buy it, they don't check out. That's like the tippy bottom of your marketing funnel. Those people are right there. They're about to buy the thing. And the analog to this for the nonprofit fundraising world would be people who are donation form abandoners. So if people make it all the way to your donation page and they start filling it out, or they look at the options, but for whatever combination of reasons, they bounce. Maybe because you had too many fields on your donation form, something to think about. Maybe because they were overwhelmed by all the different options of how to give. That's a whole different conversation, but I think it's one Dana posts excellent commentary on LinkedIn about. But for whatever combination of reasons, they made it to your donate page, but they don't actually complete the donation, right? So those people are obviously interested, obviously aware, and highly engaged with your cause, your organization, and probably are ready to make a donation. Maybe they just got distracted, right? Everyone's doing several things at once. Maybe they got a phone call, maybe their dog started barking, maybe they ran out of time. Any combination of reasons, we shouldn't just let those people go. We shouldn't just let them disappear into the ether. And these are people who are right there about to donate, and then for whatever reason they don't. So this is still just the exact same type of display ad retargeting campaign that I was talking about a moment ago, but just specifically the shopping cart abandonment. This is going to be the most bang for your buck. So if you take one thing away from today, the one set and forget campaign I would implore you to run would be set up a retargeting campaign of the people who have visited your donate page but didn't complete the checkout. That is going to be by far the most bang for your buck. And this is to see, as you see here with the ads, it's a fun chance to make the ad copy and the ad creatives a little bit clever, right? You can be a little tongue in cheek. You can acknowledge the fact that you know that they were considering a donation but didn't do it, right? So we've seen some fun ones. I really like these cute ones. Don't keep the sea turtles waiting. Did you forget something? We've also seen some that are like, baby, come back, right? So like calling out the fact that they were on the donate page about to donate. It's a chance to make something that's a little bit more clever, maybe grabs their attention, maybe guilts them into coming back, whatever you want to do. But it's a good example of how you can make these different ads for different, website visitors, in this case, the people who have been to that donate page, started the transaction, you can have a special message for them that makes it more likely to grab their attention and drive that final action. So I do like these cute ones from the Sea Turtle Conservancy. And you can see here's another example here. So whether they're reading about Taylor Swift on CNN Entertainment, or they're, again, looking at recipes on the Food Network, these ads will kind of chase them around the web to try to bring them back.
Yes, I love, Rochelle just said I saw something like this last night when I was on the Domino's website for St. Jude's. Yeah, it's really interesting. I think once you start to understand how these things work now as just an average consumer, you'll start to see them more. And you can start to pay attention to what grabs your attention and what doesn't as far as copy and creative. So there was one question, two from Ashley and Megan. What's the tools that tracks if somebody if they make it to the donate page, but they do not complete the form?
Right. So obviously the self-serving answer I would say is you should use Feather because we make it easy to do this, but there are other tools out there as well. There's one called AdRoll. You can do this inside of Google Ads. You can do retargeting of this exact same type just within Facebook, Instagram as well. So inside the Facebook Ads Manager, one of the type of custom audiences that they support is your website audience. And so you can do a custom audiences campaign inside of Facebook, and then you can retarget people in the Facebook newsfeed or the Instagram newsfeed based on them recently visiting your website. So you can do the same type of campaign inside of Facebook as well. And any of these tools, they have the ability, when you set the targeting criteria, you're essentially saying, target people who have been to this page, but not to this page, right? And so in the case of shopping cart abandonment, what you might do is you might subtract people who have been to the thank you or whatever is generated, the receipt page, the thank you page. So you would use that as exclusion. So who has been to the donate page has not made it to the checkout or the thank you successful checkout page.
Great question from Caroline too about tracking. So how is tracking going to work and evolve at Feather as cookies are phased out?
Yeah, that's a whole topic unto itself. So certainly, incrementally over the last few years, the venerable third-party cookie, which has been the backbone of free internet and also the backbone of most digital marketing and advertising for as long as they've been in existence for the last 20 plus years, it keeps being chipped away at, right? First I think Mozilla was one of the first ones to stop, and Safari, and more recently with the iOS update that makes it a little bit more difficult on phones to track things. And so third-party tracking cookies, despite the incremental chipping away at it, still actually are quite effective for the majority of the web because Chrome still supports them, and Chrome is used by like 70% plus, at least in the US, of web browsers. However, there is a fundamental kind of like sea change, technology change that is taking place over the next year and a half, unless Google pushes the deadline back again, which is what they did last time because they had not at the time made a full alternative. But there's a few different standards that have emerged. So there's one called, is really getting to the weeds, probably pull us out of there, but Unified ID 2.0 is one that is kind of an industry-wide initiative from independent publishers. And then Google has their own privacy sandbox where they've been testing new ways of assigning interests and labels to people without actually making it like personal to the individual. Yeah. So there's a few different things happening. Facebook's going to do their own thing. For whatever it's worth, for anybody here who is either a Feather customer or interested, what we would view as our role is to try to make it not matter to anybody who uses Feather. So, all that stuff is under the hood, and technology changes are always happening, yep. Especially in the fast changing world of digital marketing and kind of the internet in general. Our goal is to make it as irrelevant what the technology being used as possible. And already, there's other, the third-party cookie is not the only thing that's already used in this process. There are other identifiers that are part of the picture. Good question, though.
Yeah, that was great.
Cool. Well, then maybe we can keep moving forward with a couple more examples and just keep the questions rolling as we go. So you mentioned the thing about creative. So I did just want to point out, most of these examples here with banner ads are static, which is the case for most, but you can make banner ads a little bit more interesting. So I just want to show that here. These are, ads that are dynamic, and you can have text fly in, make buttons pop, and it's actually pretty easy to do this now. Similar to how like PowerPoint made it so that you don't have to be like a Flash animator to make presentations animate. Similarly, there are drag and drop tools. Canva makes it pretty easy. There's a tool out there that used to be called Banner Snack, and now it's called Create-a-P, that makes specifically designed for making animated banner ads. And we actually integrate with that and pull it into Feather too. So there's a number of tools out there that can make banner ads a little bit more animated. But so moving on, so those two types that we just talked about was all about this kind of set and forget retargeting campaign for your website. So you set the criteria once, people who visit these pages, show them these ads, and that will just run until you turn it off. But that's all based on your existing website traffic. So people already have to be coming to your website. But you can apply the same type of retargeting concept, but instead of targeting people based on your website traffic, you can set it so that you use your existing email lists, and essentially the email address is used as like a unique identifier to try to find that person around the web. There's a lot of technical stuff that goes into that, which again doesn't really matter that much. The point is using a tool, within Facebook, they call this custom audiences. The other type of custom audiences, you can upload a customer list, and essentially they will try to find, the email addresses that you upload to Facebook around the web. Basically, is that email address associated with a Facebook account or an Instagram account? And if so, you can then run a retargeting campaign reaching the people that successfully matched. And similarly, there are tools out there, and we are one of them, that let you do this around the broader web. So you would upload an email list, from your CRM, and then essentially the tool will crawl the web to try to find those people around the web. Maybe they match, 50% of them successfully, so they find half of that list, and then you can run a retargeting campaign to reach those same people. So just to be clear here, we're not talking about sending emails to this list. You're just using the email list as the way to try to find those same people around the web. Basically have they use that email to log in to a shopping account, or if use it to subscribe to a newsletter. Like if they've used that email address elsewhere around the web, there's a good chance that whatever website they used it to, again, sign up for a newsletter or something like that, that publication of that website probably has like a data sharing agreement with an ad exchange that makes a match between, okay, this cookie and this email, or this device and this email. And again, this is kind of all the underbelly of how the free internet works that keeps websites free that are powered by ads. But essentially, again, you can upload an email list, crawl the web, find those people, target them with ads, just like retargeting. But in this case, it's not based on the fact that they've visited your website. It's based on the fact that they're already in your CRM. And I'll answer Ashley's comment there. So, this is not data sharing in that you are not giving these emails to anybody. Just want to be very clear about that. And once the match is made, the email address actually gets thrown out. So it is then just a pool of targetable, reachable people on the web that are anonymous. It just uses the list of emails to find those people, matches a subset of them, the email list gets removed, and the matched subset are now available within that advertising tool to be targeted. And again, LinkedIn has a version of this where they call it matched audiences. You can do this within Google. Yeah, you can do this within Facebook because they each kind of have their own walled garden. They'll try to match your email list to users of those platforms. And then using a tool like Feather or other tools that can try to do this for the kind of the broader web for trying to match it to people to be able to retarget them around many different websites. So it uses that email as a way to find them. And even though this is not, again, you're not using this to send emails, this can be a great 1-2 punch. So if you're already sending emails to this list, it allows you to run essentially retargeting ads, reaching the same people in parallel to your email announcements. And so, if you get, maybe you can sign off in the chat. We'd love to see what the average email open rate that you see with your emails. The industry stats that we see are around 20 to 25% is the most common for open. And that means that 75 to 80% of people, industry-wide at least, are not opening those emails, right? And so using the same email list to do this type of retargeting campaign is a way to try to reach the 70 to 75% or 80% of people who don't open those emails. And it's great to see, Kim, 40, Ashley, 40 to 60, 50%. Those are on the higher end, but even in that case, that means half of the people aren't opening those emails. Margaret, 30%, that's a little bit more common to what we see as the industry standard. So for this type of campaign, again, it's just another way to try to get the right message in front of the right person at the right time. It can be a great complement to your email marketing. Just to show a few more examples here. So these are some ads that were used to kind of supercharge a giving day, local giving day. And in the lead up to that, so in the week leading up to it and the day of, What they want to do is they wanted to show these ads with these cute dogs to people who had previously donated, right? So asking them to give again because this was like a specific cause or a specific campaign around the giving day, or maybe there was a match and there were contests and all these fun things. They targeted people who had previously volunteered with the Humane Society. So that was a list that they wanted to activate as part of the giving day. Previous event attendees. So this is the same organization that had the fun benefit concert, Woofstock. And so they're like, hey, people who have been to Woofstock in the past, supporters of the cause, let's reactivate that list and target them with ads about Giving Day. And then in this case, another interesting use case is people who have unsubscribed, meaning they don't want to receive email communication from you. But if you have that email from them, that presumably means that they gave it to you in the past, whether from a donation or so forth. And plenty of people unsubscribe because they don't want more emails in their inbox, but that doesn't mean they no longer care about the good work that your organization is doing and supporting the cause. So I thought that was kind of interesting that they chose to target unsubscribers, meaning they couldn't reach those people via email, but they targeted with retargeting campaign ads, kind of on the premise that those people still cared about the cause and the organization, maybe just wanted a lighter inbox, but still might be moved to participate in the big Giving Day push. So those are just some examples. And similar to how we talked about before, how you can retarget different ads based on which sections of the website that they've been to, same thing here. You could have different ads and a different message if you wanted for each of these lists, or you could run the same ads to all of them, but by separating the lists out, you could track the performance differently. So maybe you could see, none of the unsubscribers donated. Well, maybe that wasn't necessary, or maybe they donated a higher rate than expected. Who knows? Maybe you should try to reach them about signing up for a newsletter or something again, because they clearly actually really still care about the cause. So you'd be able to see the performance on a segment by segment basis, or use it to target different ads to them if you wanted to. And one other interesting example here, this is an education foundation that's like a sister nonprofit to a professional society. So SME is a professional society, and they put out a lot of like content for their industry, right? And so the sister foundation was trying to do this donation drive around a scholarship program and support the future of manufacturing. And so what they did was they targeted people who were consumers and highly engaged with the various educational content and research that the professional society had been putting out, with the idea being like, clearly these people were getting value from these types of resources. So people who had subscribed to the newsletter, people who had downloaded research reports, people who were part of the membership, people who were webinar registrants, and then those people, because they were engaged with the professional association and getting value from the role that body played, they were making this pitch, hey, can you donate to our foundation over here? So it's kind of this like cross promotion in a way, or getting these participants to upgrade to being a donor because they were consumers of the educational content.
I think what's neat to see about this is that there's all different types of organizations that can run these ads, right? Small, large. There's dog organizations, and you have something like this that is not as like emotional pull on the heartstrings, but still can have the same effect. I just like seeing the examples of the diversity that you can have when running these ads. That it doesn't matter kind of what your organization does, because you have the supporters that are there. It's just getting in front of them in more ways. And I think
That's right.
what did they say? You have to see something 7 times before actually taking an action. And we are inundated with thousands. I think it's like 10,000 marketing messages a day or something crazy.
Yeah,
So
thousands. Yeah.
thousands. Yeah. So if you can stay top of mind, which is what this is about, staying top of mind in front of your supporters and potentially new supporters, then this is where the magic can happen. Laura, will the slides be available for download when the presentation is over? Aiden, I'll leave that up to you.
Oh, yeah. I'm happy to send it out or give it to you to send out. Absolutely. Or if anyone wants to reach out to make sure you get them, I'll drop my email at the end here.
Awesome. And I do see questions coming in the Q&A from Rochelle, Veronica. We will definitely make sure to answer those at the end. So I'm not forgetting about you.
Good stuff. What was Megan's question here? Hard campaign on Facebook, and we have partner email addresses for their agency, not personal emails. I'm not sure I fully understand that one. If it's the work email, personal email comment, I do understand that one, which I'm happy to speak to. And And if it's something different than that, Megan, maybe you can rephrase the question and I can try to weigh in on it. But in terms of personal emails versus professional emails, I think there is a varying match rates depending on also the currency of the list. That's the only thing. I mean, for our own advertising, I can say like Feather, we do a fair amount of digital advertising for our own marketing. Because we primarily have professional emails from customers and prospects and people who consume our downloadable content and so forth. Our match rate on LinkedIn is meaningfully higher than our match rate on Facebook, Instagram. So sometimes when trying to do this type of email mapping or CRM retargeting campaign type, you might have to see which platform you get the best match rate. But it's not. I think I should share. It's not literally only is this the email they've used on Facebook. So Facebook and Instagram, put quite a bit of effort into understanding a lot about you, and that includes if they have like ways to stitch together a profile about you beyond what you have provided them directly. And so Facebook and Instagram may in fact have awareness of other email addresses of yours that you have used elsewhere around the web, depending on how you've used Facebook and Instagram and logged in with Facebook to different places and so forth. So even if you haven't literally put your work email, for example, on your Facebook account, Facebook, or rather Meta, the company, Meta may still have awareness of your other email addresses, and therefore the match rate of work emails on Facebook and Instagram might actually still be higher than you would expect. But anyway, that's kind of just a side comment. If there's a different question, Megan, happy to weigh in on it. Yeah, so anyway, getting back to it, CRM retargeting here is leveraging your email lists and thinking about who are the high intent slices of your list and what the message is for them. It's all about just, these are potential supporters, current supporters. What is the right message for them in this moment as part of whatever call to action you're trying to do. Most of my examples here are about donation drives because that tends to be the highest priority. However, again, you can use this same type of activity or these same types of campaigns for volunteer sign-up drives, for kind of getting back to, I think one of the comments earlier, for promoting the services and the programs that you have to make sure if the population that you serve is one that's likely to be active online, then you may be trying to promote your programs and reach your target population that you're trying to serve with ads so that you can further your mission more effectively and reach more people in need. So that obviously varies based on the population you're trying to reach. But if there are people who have smartphones and computers and spend a lot of time online, you might consider this type of activity to reach them as well.
I think one other idea that could be great for summertime is if you're not trying to make an ask push specifically, but how can you build your email list? Is there a resource or a tool or something of value that people can download from you? So you bring them to a landing page where they can download a piece of advice, or maybe you're just getting them to a blog post that's providing a great listicle of information on something. Like these are the type of things, just getting them to your site, get them in a place where a pop-up happens and they can put in your email address. And so you're building your list and they know who you are. Then you're sending them emails. And then when fall comes around, then you can make that ask. So these ads are great for all different phases of the funnel. And I think you're going to jump into that shortly. So I'm not going to get too ahead of myself.
No, but totally. Absolutely. In that case, yeah, maybe the ask isn't something as direct as donate now or volunteer now, but it's more about, promoting, again, a piece about the impact you're doing and or your annual report. If you have, a beautiful annual report, maybe you're promoting that, or maybe it's sign up for the newsletter or something like that. People sign up for and people probably are less likely to sign up for a newsletter if they're not like really interested in your cause. So something that's a little bit more of a value add might be higher performing than the kind of generic newsletter sign up. But we have seen some success with people signing up for newsletters too. So it's just to show, we already covered this, but you can do this on Facebook, Instagram too. It's one of the types of custom audiences that Facebook, Instagram supports is this same type of email list matching. So this campaign type has a few different names. At Feather, we call it email mapping. At LinkedIn, they call it matched audiences. At Facebook, it's one of the types of custom audiences. CRM retargeting seems to be what the most common parlance for this is. All right, but just to keep moving along here. So number 4, so the fourth type of campaign, set and forget type of, stay top of mind, target ads in the summer. What can you do here? You can geofence ads to the places where your donors live, work, and play. And again, this is focusing on the donation drive use case. So geofencing is literally dropping a pin on a map, drawing a circle around it, and you can decide how wide or how tight that circle is. So this is a hyper-local targeting. And in this case, unlike the first example of site retargeting, which is which pages of my website have they been to, target them based on that. Or this, second example, which was about, are they on my email list? Target them based on that. In this case, it's people who have not been to your website and are not on your current email list. It's a great way for reaching net new people, and it's targeting physical location. It can get all the way down to like individual buildings, or at least like the block around a specific building, or you can make it a little bit wider, like a neighborhood. And so the example that's being shown here was targeting high net worth neighborhoods in Gainesville and targeting people based on this kind of indirect way of getting at income. So we believe these are people that are high net worth individuals with discretionary income, and they're local. And so this is from a local organization. This is from Grace again here. And the mission is to end homelessness in Gainesville. And they were targeting people who live in Gainesville in neighborhoods that have high property values, on the assumption that those people are high net worth and therefore have more likelihood to donate. So it's literally targeting people based on where they are, and that really it's reaching devices, right? A computer that was in this radius, a phone that was in this radius. So it's targeting devices that were in a certain radius in a certain window of time. And so you can set these in advance, like at the start of the summer, you could set a few of these and say, anybody who is in this neighborhood for this whole stretch of time, but you could also make it more timely. You could target like a specific event. If there's an event happening, you can set this campaign in advance. The event's happening a month from now, and then it will say, okay, anybody who was in this radius for these 3 days during a certain event, they will see your ads for the weeks thereafter. So it's a lot of different ways you can scope this, but you can set it ahead of time, and they'll launch at the different launch dates as it comes. And just to throw out a few ideas for how geofencing can work, for the most part, we see this for trying to reach high net worth individuals, so targeting places where wealthy people hang out. So you could target country clubs or yacht clubs or golf courses, expensive neighborhoods like the previous example. But another example, it would be, if you're an organization that is faith-based, you can target the places where people of your faith spend time, right? So target churches of your faith, target other forms of places of worship, because that people who attend this set of churches are aligned with the values and the mission of your organization, and that can be a way to reach people kind of from a faith-based standpoint. So it's like an indirect way to reach people based on, you're making a guess, right? It's not literally, there's no drop down that says these people are definitely Christian, but you can geofence specific buildings that they likely are only going to if they are active participants in that faith, and therefore a way to reach them based on that criteria. Again, getting into like topical or timely or cultural, events. So you can target a music festival, for example, and maybe you can use that as a way to make ads that somehow like pivot off of that music festival or a sporting event. So you can make ads that appeal to the people who would be at that, and maybe some clever way to tie it in to your ask or to your brand, your campaign, because you're only targeting people who are at this, whatever sporting event. You drop it on a specific arena or on a baseball field or on a college football stadium or whatever it might be at a music festival, right? Same idea. You cover the festival grounds with the radius, and then anybody who's there for the 3 days of the music festival will see these ads. And it's not only seeing them in real time during the event, you can make it so that it will continue to retarget them after the fact. It's just targeting them based on the fact they were in this physical location for this certain stretch of time. I want to make that clear, because that's part of how this works, as the whole set and forget idea is you set it based on where they'll be, but then it can continue running and continue nurturing them after the event is over. So if you're trying to reach a specific demographic, this is also a way to get at that, right? So maybe there's a music festival that pulls a younger crowd, and if you're trying to reach young progressive donors and that's the primary demographic of a given music festival, that can be a way to reach maybe new audiences or new donors that you don't currently have.
Hey, Aiden, I really like this question from Matt Meeks about, can Feather target email list, pixel tracking, and based on geofencing, based on locations, all in one ad campaign?
So it depends what you mean by campaign. What we would say is you can do all of that in one place very easily. In Feather parlance, those would each be separate ad campaigns, but you could, essentially organize them into a marketing funnel inside of Feather. So the roll-up reporting would be across these 3 campaigns. What's kind of the total output of it? So that's something that's really easy to do in Feather. Is you can create what we would call a flight, which is essentially a marketing funnel that says it's a set of different ad campaigns, but with all the same goal, which most often is either like driving ticket sales for a specific event or driving donations as part of a given donor drive. So, in our technical terms, these would each be a different ad campaign, but they'd all be contributing to like one, campaign.
You would see it all in the same place. Yeah, that would be really interesting to see if one works better than another as far as like conversion.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the nice thing about, all digital advertising, whether it's paid social or it's this type of programmatic display advertising is, you can start, you can stop, you can pause, you can disable individual ads. You get real-time reporting. If you sat at your dashboard and kept hitting refresh, you'll see, how many people have seen the ads, how many people click the ads, and ultimately how many people have converted. What are the dollar amounts of those conversions? If it is something like driving donations that have variable amounts, you can pull that into your reporting if you set it up correctly. So that is definitely part of the advantage, is being able to see which campaigns are working. But it's also important to note that different campaigns, they might work together well, but they might have different goals, right? So a geofencing campaign is great for reaching net new people, but that's probably top of the funnel, right? That's raising awareness. Probably not the best time to immediately ask someone to donate if you're talking to people who've never heard of you, right? So a geofencing campaign might be more about reach and awareness, and then maybe you're retargeting those people later to try to move them down to engagement, something like check out our annual report or sign up for our newsletter, some examples we gave before, some type of content piece. And then later, you're trying to get them to actually donate rather than just immediately hoping they donate. And when they don't, conclude that this campaign doesn't work. It makes more sense to have the right message for the right time. And sometimes the right message is awareness and generating interest. Great questions, though. Yeah. And just to round out, a couple other geofencing ideas is university campuses is one we sometimes see that might be again, based on if you're trying to reach volunteers maybe, and there's universities that maybe are filled with potential volunteers, or again, if you're trying to reach younger donors, or for some reason your mission or your cause aligns with a certain aspect of the university, whether that's certain subject matter of a specific college, and you can target the buildings associated with that major or that college or the university med school program, whatever it might be, or it could be the sporting events of the university, or it could just be the whole university as a whole because you're trying to reach college students. So there's a lot of different ways this can work, but we've seen people target different aspects of universities depending on the cause. Phase one, maybe a little bit controversial. I'm not here necessarily to recommend it or not, but plenty of people do this. If another organization that has a similar cause has done the hard work of getting a couple thousand people to show up for a 5K walk or run, or a benefit concert or whatever it might be, you can geofence their event, and all of the people who are present at their fundraising event will now be targeted and nurtured with your ads. So you can target your ads to people who are attending other nonprofits fundraising events to raise awareness about your cause.
Of this, I just wanted to pop in. So I was talking to Aiden about this beforehand, just so that you guys can see all of this working. I hope that you sign up for a demo with Feather to just check it out in more detail at the end of this presentation. But I'm going to do this myself. So I'm going to set up using their tool because it literally, I am A, huge fan, and B, it's fascinating to see the data. I'm going to do this in the geofencing one around some conferences for nonprofits. So I'm happy to share that data with all of you. Just drop like a Y in the chat or an exclamation mark if you want to see that data. And I'll either create a blog post or an email and share that information so that you can see with some screenshots specifically how that works. Sorry to interject.
Yeah, totally. So, and that's something we do as well. Just like you were mentioning there, Dana, targeting, nonprofit conferences and geofencing them so that people will then continue to see our ads after the fact. So, good stuff. So yeah, these are all just different ideas for geofencing, but ultimately geofencing, getting back to it, it's using physical location in a pretty hyper local way as the targeting criteria. But in terms of what the ads look like, it's the same idea. It's display ads that will follow you from website to website, nurture you over time. Just in this case, you're targeting based on physical location, not based on an email list or not based on website visits. And geofencing is best for reaching net new people. So this is a great way to increase your reach. And maybe to tie this all together, so kind of tip number 5 here, this isn't actually a campaign idea, but it's more of like a way to think about it. Dana alluded to this already. Arrange your campaigns into a marketing funnel. And really what that means is think about, this is kind of oversimplified, but like the classic marketing funnel, I'd say the top of the funnel is awareness. Do people know you exist? So another way to think about this is maybe, is your problem not enough people come to your website? Is your problem the people that come to your website, bounce, and they're not clicking around, they're not digging deeper, they're not consuming any content? Or is the problem that you have lots of highly engaged website traffic and none of them are actually donating, right? And maybe you might think of the same with regard to an email list. So you think about, which is the biggest problem for your organization? And it's not just about your website, that's just one example, but think about reach. Do not enough people know you exist? Or engagement or nurturing, consideration, whatever you want to call it. That middle of the step is like, okay, they know you exist, but are they responding at all? Are they taking further steps? Or that last step is the problem at the bottom of the funnel, which is getting people to take that final step of actually signing up, actually donating, actually volunteering, right? So if you're asking where to prioritize your efforts, which I think maybe came up earlier, someone asked about staff and who should focus on this, and that's a common question, right? You have to make trade-offs with how to put your time or your team's time. So it might be that you only have time to focus on one of these stages, and you should pick whichever one is the biggest challenge for your org. So is that, again, you have very limited website traffic? I would say top of the funnel is the biggest lever point for you. Is it you have lots of website traffic, but nobody's donating online? Maybe you need to do more middle, bottom of the funnel to nurture people, make sure they're engaged, make sure they're inspired and actually understand what you do. And then ultimately, the bottom conversion is going for the jugular and really trying to get them to make that gift or that whatever their ask is. So pick the stage of the funnel that's the biggest challenge for your organization if you have limited time. But ideally, you would set your campaigns up in a way that one feeds into the other, right? So just to show, in bold here are the kind of 4 examples we talked about today. Geofencing is great for top of the funnel awareness. Website retargeting and CRM retargeting are great for engagement. And cart abandonment, which is technically just a subset of site retargeting, but this is like the absolute bottom of the funnel, right? Cart abandonment is like people who made it to the donate page, just trying to bring them back. So that's definitely going right for the donation ask. But obviously, some of these other things can be used for that too. But broad strokes, different campaign types are best suited for different sections of the marketing funnel or the donor journey. And what I put here in italics are just other types of advertising that often are used at these stages. We didn't quite get into these today, but things like targeting people based on demographics and interests, which you can do a lot of that on Facebook, Instagram, and I'm sure if you follow Dana's expertise, she shared a lot of ideas in that regard. Lookalikes, which you can also do on social networks or through third-party tools. Targeting based on keywords, and by here I don't actually mean search bidding. That's actually what I mean here. But keyword retargeting is these kind of display ads following people around. It's retargeting just based on people who have recently done a certain search term. So that's another type of retargeting of a sort, where you're reaching people who have recently performed a given search online, like in the last 30 days, and retarget them across many websites. So these are all other ones for reaching net new people. I put a question mark here with paid search because paid search can be used in a lot of different ways. The most common way it's used is trying to bid on search terms that are very high intent. So like if someone's like, I want to donate to an organization that supports climate change, right? I don't know if people type that out that literally, but like organization to support climate change, donation option campaign, I don't know, whatever, super high intent, like that would be, very bottom of the funnel. You want your paid search ad, which is, sponsored result on Google, you would want to show up when they do that. And that's the most common way that paid search is used, is trying to bid on very high intent searches. But you could also bid on indirect searches, some that's more awareness or more engagement. People who aren't necessarily ready to donate immediately, but they're clearly interested in learning more about your cause. You can use paid search for that as well. But most commonly, people like to focus on those high intent keywords at the bottom of the funnel. So, yeah, Dana, so you hop back on here.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I'm just listening.
So to wrap things up here, I mean, what our recommendation would be, try to organize campaigns in a way that one feeds into another. So you might have, geofencing campaign to get people to the site and then retarget them maybe until they fill out something with an email address. And then you can do CRM retargeting to kind of get them further down. And then cart abandonment at the very end when people are on the edge but haven't done it. And maybe an additional message here is important to remember is just because you show someone an ad once or you launch a campaign and it doesn't immediately drive like donations for the first time people are seeing your ads, that doesn't mean digital advertising doesn't work. And that's, I guess, my other message here to think about today is if you're reaching people in the awareness stage, you should not expect them to donate in response to those ads. In fact, that would be an inappropriate goal to have. The goal should be awareness and education, and then getting them engaged with some of examples of your work and so forth. So just thinking about it that way of how many times does it take you to make a decision? How many times you need to see a message before you are ready to act? You mentioned the rule of 7 earlier. I actually recently did some digging on that. Apparently that came out like in the 30s with the promotion of movies.
It's been around for a long time.
Yeah, so a lot of people say the number's 13 or 18 or whatever, a much higher number. And it's for the reason you mentioned before. We're all exposed to so much marketing and branding and advertising today, and we're all so distracted. It is harder to stay top of mind, and it's not realistic to expect someone from a single touch point, whether that's an email or an ad, to act. Some people will, your highest supporters, or really people who are already ready and you just happen to catch them at the right moment. That's kind of like capturing existing demand, people who were already ready to donate to you and you just happen to get them at the right moment. But for people in the much larger subset who might be convinced to donate to you, you're going to need to do some convincing, and that's where nurturing and engagement comes into play to build the case. And it's important to talk about cost. One of the benefits of digital advertising is fairly affordable. So display advertising, like most of what I've shown here, it's like $4 or $5 to show an ad 1,000 times. Facebook is a little bit more expensive than that, but still it's $15 to $25 probably to show an ad 1,000 times, and it's typically has higher engagement and click-through rates. So really the cost that matters ultimately is the cost per result or the cost per acquisition if the goal is to drive some type of behavior. But in terms of reach, we're talking about single-digit dollars for display ads and low double digits for paid social to show an ad 1,000 times, right? So it's pretty significant
why it's
reach.
Magic. And I think the other thing is digital ads actually give you data back. Like if you're testing campaign creative, which one works better than others, then you can take that campaign creative and that's what you use in your email. That's what you post organically. That's what you use at an event. Like because it worked online, then you have a good subset of data. And I think I ask this question all the time is, do you know the cost per acquisition standard across your organization for an event? When you're sending out a mailer, you don't actually know unless you're tracking specifically a QR code or a link or somebody sends in a check directly from a mailer you send out. It's really hard to gauge how many people saw it, how many times did it end in the trash, did somebody move and they just got thrown away? Like you're just guessing. And with an event, how much time is spent into that? And this is why I wanted to set this up and work with Aiden on this presentation leading into summertime, because it literally there's so many great practices that you can just set up and forget. And then, a comms person on your team, or actually anybody who might be interested in learning about this space, I think could help manage it. But Feather makes it really simple to use. Aiden, is now a good time? Can I go ahead and put up the poll for?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I want to do a poll. If anybody would like, I would really like you guys to take next step. Somebody asked a question about a dashboard. Can you see how it all works? There's a poll that just went up. Would you like a Feather demo? So yes, please contact me. Their team is amazing. No, not at this time, or I'm already a Feather customer. So I just put it up. So you should be able to see that. And the tool is really cool. I would check it out. You can be able to see how geofencing works, how all these different campaigns work from a digital ad perspective and from a social media ad perspective. Everything can be managed and created in there. And with that, I think, are we good to open up for a couple of Q&A before we wrap?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Let me see. There were some questions in the Q&A. Oh, question from Heather. What are lookalikes?
So as the name suggests, it's trying to find similar people around the web to the people who are already either on your email list or already visiting your website, or on a social platform. You can do a lookalike for people who are already followers or who have already liked your page. And to be honest, lookalikes are essentially a black box, and whichever tool you're using to find it, you're kind of just trusting their algorithm, right? So if you do it within Facebook and Instagram, you're kind of just trusting Facebook's assessment of what,
Yeah.
the relevant data points are. But if you do it within Facebook and Instagram, they'll say, I'm going to find you the next closest 100,000 people that look like yours. And similarly, there are tools which, we tap into some of them too that can do this around the web. To do lookalikes, you need to have like a fairly large audience already. You should probably have like tens of thousands of either on your email list or site traffic or followers on social media for it to be particularly reliable. Because if it's hard to do lookalikes of a very small sample size. So that's why lookalikes probably apply more to larger organizations. But that's it. Essentially, you're using some type of tool, analyze your list, your website traffic, your social followers, and it'll try to automatically find more
I
people
will
like
say
them.
I have seen success when I superset my lookalikes. So when I combine my email list, my Instagram engagement, Facebook, website traffic, and then do a superset lookalike with all of those, I've gotten great results with lookalikes from a social
Nice.
ad perspective
Right. Totally.
with Facebook and Instagram. So that's a really good question. Rochelle, so questions about YouTube ads. So saying I don't see YouTube ads for nonprofits very often. Is there any knowledge around A, do you run YouTube ads through Feather? And B, how much is it to create video ads for your nonprofit to put on like YouTube?
Yeah, so all these same concepts that we're talking about, like showing the right ad in the right spot, right time, and the kind of bidding that happens in the background, it all applies to video ads as well. So YouTube is obviously where the majority of that takes place, but actually even beyond YouTube, if you think about like CNN.com, and often there will be like a 2-minute news clip highlights, right? And before that, there will be like a 15-second ad that runs before you can watch like the 2-minute news clip, right? Or similarly on a sports website, ESPN has sports highlights, but it'll be a 15-second ad. Similarly, those ads, those 15-second video ads are dynamically inserted there based on you. So like if we all go to, one of these websites and we hit refresh, we'll probably all see different 15-second video ads. So it's the same concept of targeting the right ad to the right person, just instead of the ad being a banner or instead of it being like a, native in-feed social ad, it's a 15-second video. And obviously there are other formats too. That's just the most common one. So yes, video advertising follows these same mechanics. You can do it inside of Feather. As a point of interest, we actually don't connect with YouTube. We connect with kind of like the rest of the internet's video ad inventory. This is a weird quirk right now. We don't have access to YouTube's video inventory because they used to make it open to third parties and now they don't. And we're
all the platforms making it tricky.
Yeah, so you'd have to go through Google Ads directly in order to launch YouTube ads specifically, but we support the same type of video retargeting. So it's same. It's like retargeting ads or even geofencing. It's just instead of loading banners, you're loading 15-second videos for people.
Yep, awesome. I love this question from Miles. So within the Feather kind of dashboard, what data do you get?
Yeah, a lot. So things like how many unique people were reached by the ads, how many times have the ads been shown total, and therefore what's the average frequency, how many times per person on average were they shown, how many people clicked, how many unique people clicked. So if for some reason somebody has clicked multiple times in a campaign, you can see the unique number of people that have clicked at least once. And then if you set up conversion tracking, which you should ideally do, no matter what kind of campaign, no matter what tool you're using, whatever the goal is, and then you can see how many people made it to whatever that goal was, whether that was donating or signing up, whatever it might be. So, and then it analyzes costs for each of those things. So costs, cost per 1,000 ad impressions, the CPM, cost per click, cost per acquisition, whatever the definition of acquisition is in a given campaign. So reporting on all of that, and that's all real time once the campaign is live. And anytime you check, you can see the latest stats on a given campaign. So that's examples of the type of reporting that's provided. But actually, we take it a step further. And if you do set up conversion tracking, if you'd like, you can set it so that you can snag like the form submission data that's being submitted, and we will pull it into Feather. So actually, you can see this ad campaign, not just like 17 people, which is what most ad tools will just tell you a number, but in our case, we'll actually list the 17 people, and because we're pulling that data from the form. So let's kind of dedupe and actually see who those people were. That's optional, but you can set it up to pull that data in.
Awesome. Great questions, everyone. We're at time, and I want to be mindful of everybody's time. Aiden, I think, shared his LinkedIn profile. Aiden, would you mind dropping in the chat? What's the best place for somebody to connect with you
Yeah,
or somebody on
LinkedIn
your
would be
team?
great. I'm a big fan.
There you go.
Make sure I
So
didn't have a
he
typo
just
there. I think that's right. Okay, cool.
dropped his LinkedIn, yeah, at the top. And this has been amazing. I heard there were so many. Megan said this was awesome. I took lots of notes. This was amazing. So please give. He just dropped his email. Please give a virtual clap with either an emoji or an exclamation mark to Aiden for joining us today. And thank you for being here. My role is I really try and find and bring the best technology and innovative tools out there to make your lives easier and to help amplify the missions and the work that you do. So as we go into summertime, really think about this, talk to your team about it, set up a demo, learn more about the platform that they have to offer. It's really, really, really incredible. Lillian, you're very welcome. Heather, you're welcome. Thank you guys for joining. Hey, Tom, thanks for being here. And this is recorded. You will receive an email if you want to share it with other members of your team. That will be sent to you in just a couple of hours after the recording processes. So, Aiden, thank you again for your time.
Thank you for having me, Dana.
You're welcome.
And
And
thank you,
thanks,
everybody, for
everyone.
joining.
Yeah, have a great rest of
Hopefully
your
this was
week.
helpful.